Welcome to this week's edition of Trade the Trend. I'm Jason McIntosh. It is Friday, the 5th of November 2021. Trade the Trend is a weekly video discussing the latest trends and opportunities in the markets. As always, this is general commentary and doesn't take into account your personal situation. Alrighty, with that said, let's jump to the first chart. The S&P 500, and well, look, it's been another positive week for equities. New all-time highs, and that's been the case across pretty much all the US indices, not so much in Australia, but in other parts of the world, new all-time highs as well. So generally a positive week. This time last week, we were sitting around here and I was saying that I thought that some sort of pullback was possible, and well, so far that hasn't been the case. But look, this has been quite a strong and unchecked rally at this point. You know, from here, we really haven't had any pause, and I still think that we do need to see some sort of consolidation come in. Look, by that, I don't think that's anything of any particular note, but look, I'm thinking something like, you know, when we look back at these past moves for some sort of guide, like there we get a strong move and then we get a consolidation, you know, a move up, then we get a short pause and consolidation. That's the sort of thing I'm looking for, some sort of pause in the market and then continuing higher. But look, if you're a medium-term trend follower like I am, that's just, look, we just put that down as being market noise. The sort of stocks I'm invested in trading at the moment, I've got wide trailing stops. That's the way I approach the market through my motion trader service. And so wide trailing stops should easily see off any bout of short-term consolidation. A wide trailing stop will even see you through this sort of period here. So look, we get a pullback. I don't think it's anything to be worried about. At this stage, I'd say the bulls are firmly in control of this market. And what we had here, this pullback, what it did, it really unwound the overbought situation, which we started to get through here. The market did need to have a break, and we got that break. And it's going to take quite a bit of work, I think, to get this market to turn bearish at this point. It's not something that I think can happen overnight. So any pullbacks, I'm expecting to be very much temporary, and I expect the market to come in and buy any dips. So there's a chart I want to show you. It's an interesting one. I haven't shown this one before. It is the VIX index, or the volatility index for the S&P 500. Now, I'm going to jump over to a weekly chart to show you what I have in store here. And we're going to go all the way back. All the data on this goes back to about 91. Okay, so when I look at this, I can see a big support region. So let me just draw this on the chart. It's let's say it probably kicks in around somewhere around about here, comes all the way through to where we are now. It's look, there we go. That's it. Yeah, just broaden that a touch. So so we've got this big support zone that's been in place, since pretty much they started calculating the VIX. This is the GFC, this period here. After the GFC, volatility stayed elevated for a few years really, and then it started to pull back down towards this big support band. So what I'm looking at here, I'm looking at where we currently are. We're still currently relatively elevated in where the VIX is, and look, this may not be happening right now, but there's certainly scope for the VIX index to continue to decline back down to this region, as it has done, so many times over the years. It goes from elevated levels, it comes back down into this support. What's significant about that is, as volatility falls, it becomes possible to take on more leverage, and leverage is fuel for a bull market. It means more buying power, and so look, this is just something interesting to keep in mind. Should volatility continue coming off, well then that's a potential tailwind for equities over maybe the months ahead. Not so much a play for the next few weeks, but over the months ahead. Something interesting to be aware of. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is jump over to the Russell 2000. Well, this has been the most I'd say this has been the most interesting mover of the week. we were talking about this. I think it was 3 weeks ago, and I was drawing attention to this little triangle pattern that was forming. And I said, the market was coiling up within this triangle, and if we got a break out of the triangle, well, then it's a test of the upper bounds of this big range, which has been in place since February, so pretty much the whole year. And if we broke out of the range, well, I said, well, that's going to be a really bullish sign, I think, really overall for the markets, because, of course, the Russell's not going to move on its own. And the Russell is made up of the US small caps. So it's pretty much the backbone of the US economy, the small caps. And if they're doing well, then that's a sign, I think, that the whole economy, the whole US economy is doing well. So that bodes well for stocks generally, I think. So, look, what we can do from here is we can project higher out of this range. So we take the width of the range, which is basically this rectangle. So let's take this rectangle and project it up to the top of the range. Takes us up here. So this is sort of like a target. This is a potential target that this market could be heading towards. Now, this isn't going to happen in a couple of weeks. This, if this all plays out, this could happen over the next few months into next year. But look, maybe this is all like speculation, of course, as always when I draw these lines in. Maybe we're going to get a bit of a return move to the top of the range. Maybe it trade sideways for a bit, have another leg up, pull back, then up. So we could look at this in a few months' time and start to see this sort of pattern here forming in the Russell 2000. So just measuring that is something like let me just do that again. There we go. Look, it's saying like about 13% or thereabouts above current levels. So yeah, look, that could be a good tailwind for equities in general. It's a positive sign. I know some people are out there looking for tops in markets and still saying, the market has to come back. Market doesn't have to do anything. Market's going to do what it's going to do. And at this stage, we've got to break out to the upside. So I think the smart play to do is to go at the break. Don't argue with the market. The market's going to go where it's going to go, and that's what trend following is all about. It's about following the trend of the market and seeing where that takes you. That's very much I'm doing with my motion trader service and the signals that we're seeing through there at the moment for entries into individual stocks. All right, let's jump to the local market, the All Ordinaries. Well, look, the All Ordinaries has been struggling. It hasn't been the strongest of the global markets. Much of that's to do with the iron ore miners, BHP, Rio, and Fortescue. BHP and Rio in particular. And we've got this resistance band. It's somewhere. I was talking last week about this. It's not a clear-cut level, but there is congestion somewhere. It's somewhere in this bound here. The market is really it's making heavy work of trying to get through there. I think it's going to get through there. I think we're going to make new all-time highs. I think it's just a question of how we're going to get there. It's look, I think it's still possible that we see this market maybe, if this US market does stall and does consolidate, it's possible we do see the local stocks, maybe do something like this, move sideways for a bit more, and then start to ratchet up from there. It could just be a case that we end up with just a bit of a wider consolidation band before this market is ready to move higher. But look, as I said, I think it's going to happen. If you're using your wide trailing stops, none of this should be a particular concern. If you've been able to see off this period of volatility, I think if we do see something like this, I don't think it's going to be a big ordeal. But of course, look, we've got to wait and see how price action develops. It doesn't do what we expect it to do much of the time, really. So it's a case of react to what's happening rather than have clear-cut ideas about what has to happen. Because as I was saying, market will do what it's going to do. So we'll wait for signals and really wait for a clear break above this point here to give us a good signal that we're heading up to new all-time highs. And look, also, if you're getting value from the video, please hit that like button. Let YouTube know that you're getting value. Then YouTube shows other people, and it helps me build my YouTube channel by people watching the videos. And also, if you haven't, please hit the subscribe button with the bell notification button, and that's also a good thing, and just means I can keep making the videos. So, okay, with the stocks covered, I want to jump to a couple of other things. So let me just look here for what we're going to look at next. I want to have a quick look at Bitcoin. I haven't spoken about Bitcoin before on Trade the Trend. Reason being is the reason I'm covering it, more to the point, is I've had some requests to have a look at Bitcoin. And it is interesting. This is one which I do keep an eye on myself, even though I don't often speak about. So what we're seeing here is, so Bitcoin broke to a new all-time high in just a couple of weeks ago. So only just got above it, but look, as so often happens when a market gets above a new all-time high, particularly when it's had a bit of a run to do so, it will then pull back and consolidate, and that's very much what we're seeing in Bitcoin now. But I think overall, this structure looks like a pretty positive sort of structure, and so this pullback could have a little bit further to go. But look, overall, people talk about 10,000, 100,000. Used to be 10,000 Bitcoin. Now they talk about 100,000 Bitcoin, and I think 100,000 Bitcoin is really becoming a bit of a magnet. It's like I remember when they used to talk about 10,000 Dow. That's back in the 1990s. Never been there before. It was a number which a decade earlier was considered inconceivable. Back when the market was at 1,000, but eventually it got there. It acted like a magnet. The market just gravitated towards it. My feel is Bitcoin's going to do something similar. Look, I don't know how it's going to, what the price action is going to be to get there, but look, we could see something like this develop over I don't know how long that would take. That could take 6 months, could take a year, could take longer, could be quicker. But I think that price structure like that it's quite, it's very achievable. It's very common to see markets that resemble that. Now, people still say that, look, Bitcoin's a fad, it's going to go away. I've got to say, I don't think it's a fad. I think these cryptos are here to stay. This market has had a number of booms and then busts, and then it keeps coming back. Another boom, another somewhat of a bust, and now it seems to be booming again. Tulip mania in the 17th century, that was a fad. The tulip price went up and it came down and it was all over. But the resilience of Bitcoin to keep coming back suggests to me that it's more than a fad. There's something more going on, and I think I think it's going to keep going higher. And it's also becoming more mainstream. It's still got a lot more to go in terms of becoming mainstream, but it is moving in that direction. All right, okay, so from new money, Bitcoin, let's jump over to old money. And the old money I want to have a look at today, it's not gold, but it's silver. So silver's looking really interesting. So let's just, let's look at it like this. Okay, so firstly, I want to look at this area in here. This looks like potentially the relatively early stages of a head and shoulders, inverse head and shoulders pattern. So this is a pattern which worked so well in the US market a few weeks ago. Look, it may or may not form, but it is sort of something I'm looking at. So we've potentially got a shoulder there. We've got a head here, and then of course over here is potentially another shoulder forming. So I'm going to keep an eye on this and see how this plays out. It's if this were to play out possibly that's a sort of play that could come from this. And it's also interesting. It's also interesting because when we look at this from a little bit more data, you get this big congestion band which we're currently in. The market's just come back and tested the base of that band, and now should this head and shoulders pattern play out, well then that could take us back up towards the top of the range. And look, it's going to be a really interesting one to watch. You can get some really good measured moves out of this as well. So if we do a measured move from the base up to the high, and then down to here, look where you get the price targets. Price targets for silver get up to around $40, and we're currently down at 23. So we're almost talking about a potential doubling. We saw copper double in price last year. Is the next 12 months going to be about silver doubling? If silver's doubling, I'm expecting gold's going to be in there playing its part as well. So maybe there's a precious metals theme on the horizon. Isn't a case of getting there and buy it now. We want to see how this plays out. We need a little bit more information, but it's something interesting and it's setting up. And so let's keep an eye on this. And also it's interesting because from this high here, it's a really nice ABC pattern. So the zigzag, the classic zigzag consolidation correction. So look, that's an interesting one. So I'm going to keep a close eye on this, and I'll come back on another week and we'll look at some individual silver plays should this start to develop into something a little bit more interesting. So we'll save that for another day. All right, well, let's call that a wrap for this week. If you're still watching, please give me a like. I'd love to get those likes. It really, again, it also gives me my enthusiasm to come back the next week when I know people are getting some benefit from these. So I hope you enjoyed today. Hope you got something out of it. And I'll come back and we'll put all the pieces again together next week. So thanks for joining in. See you next week.